Hi, kids. Welcome back to Bible College. Miss Nancy's going to do something I love today, and that's introduce you to my next book before it's in book form. I checked it out myself after I've done some corrections and stuff, and I'm pretty soon going to submit it. So I wanted to try it out on you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. This is a time in the Old Testament in the book of Samuel where God tells Samuel Saul is not going to be king anymore, and he's wanting him to go anoint another person. And so he goes to this family of a man named Jesse. But that's not really part of this story, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background of what's happening very soon after this story. But let's go ahead and get started. The giant and the lad. Once upon a truth, a long, long time ago, in the faraway town of Bethlehem, lived a young man named David. He was the youngest son of a man named Jesse. One day, a battle broke out. The Philistine army was on one mountain. King Saul and the men of Israel were gathered on another mountain, and there was a valley between them. There went out a champion from the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath. He was 6 cubits and a span tall. This is about 9 foot 9 inches tall. He had a helmet of brass on his head. He was armed with the coat of mail. This is like metal over metal over metal. It's very heavy. His coat weighed 5,000 shekels of brass. He had greaves of brass on his legs and a target of brass between his shoulders. The staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam. His spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, another heavy, heavy metal. A man went before him bearing a shield. And this is before Goliath the Philistine. Like he would need one, seemed like. But Goliath, he stood and cried to Israel's army. And this is what he said. Why are you come out to set your battle in array? I am a Philistine, and you are the servants of Saul. Saul still being the king at this time. Then he tells him, choose you a man and let him come down to me. If he fights with me and kills me, then we will be your servants. If I fight and kill him, you will be our servants. I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man so we can fight. He did this morning and evening for 40 days, so they had to listen to him run his mouth 80 times. When Saul and all Israel heard the giant's words, they were sore afraid. Imagine I would have been too. What about you guys if you'd been there? But the 3 oldest sons of Jesse went to the battle with Saul. But David returned to Bethlehem to keep his father's sheep. One day, Jesse told David, take parched corn, 10 loaves and 10 cheeses to the captain of your brothers' armies, to see how your brothers are doing and to take their pledge. Saul and his army was fighting in the valley with the Philistines. David rose up early in the morning. He left the sheep with a keeper and went as Jesse had commanded him. When he came to the trench, the host was going forth to fight and shouted for the battle. Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. David left his carriage in the carriage keeper's hands. He ran into the army and came and saluted his brothers. As he talked with him, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name. He spake the same words. David heard them. This right here, I believe, is the turning point in the whole story. David heard this giant running his mouth. All of the men of Israel, when they saw that man, talking about Goliath, they fled from him and were sore afraid. The men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man that has come up? He came to defy Israel. It shall be that the man who kills him, the king will make him rich and give him his daughter to wife and make his father's house free in Israel." Well, I can only imagine David hearing this. But David said, "What shall be done to the man that kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach of Israel?" He just can't believe his ears. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? The people answered, "It will be done to the man who kills him." Eliab, his oldest brother, heard David talking to the men. He was angry. He said, "Why did you come here? And who have you left those few sheep in the wilderness with?" I don't think he thought much of David, and David was his half-brother. "I know your wicked heart. You just came to see the battle." Usually if somebody says something bad about somebody else, it's what is in them that shows up. Miss Nancy's had that to happen. But anyway, David asked, "What have I done now? Is there not a cause?" He kept talking to the people there. When someone spoke the words that David had spoken before King Saul, he sent for him. But when Saul saw David, he said, "You're just a youth. You're not able to go against this giant. He is a man of war from his youth." David told Saul, "Thy servant kept his father's sheep. There came a lion and a bear and took a lamb out of the flock. I went out after him, smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. When he arose against me, I caught him by the beard." I could just picture that. Man, what a picture. "Smote him and slew him." That means he had his way with him and killed him. "I killed both the lion and the bear. The giant shall be as one of them, because he defied the armies of the living God." He wasn't afraid of this giant. Everybody else was, including King Saul. David also said, "The Lord that delivered me." See, David was humble the whole time, but he was giving credit where credit was due. David said, "The Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine." Saul said, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Seems so, I don't know, odd to Miss Nancy that he would say that. Saul armed David with his armor. Now remember, he was a good-sized man, Saul was. He put a helmet of brass upon his head. That right there just makes Miss Nancy want to shrink to the ground. Not that I've got far to go. He also armed him, with a coat of mail. This is heavy metal, layers of it. And David girded his sword upon his armor. He started to go. David said, "I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them." I imagine they were so big on little David, a giant of a man and a young lad. But David took the armor off. David took his staff in his hand. He chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook. Now, the Bible does not tell us why he chose 5 smooth stones, but we do know that Goliath, the giant, had 4 giant brothers also. But he took the 5 stones out of the brook, and he put them in his shepherd's bag, even in a scrip. His sling was in his hand. He drew near to the Philistine. The Philistine drew near to him. The man that bare the shield went before Goliath. I can just see him, David on one side, buddy, almost running towards the giant, and the giant come lumbering on towards David. But when the giant looked about and saw David, he thought David was unworthy to fight him. David was but a youth, and ruddy, and of fair countenance. In other words, he didn't look like he was nothing to be afraid of. A little boy. The giant said unto David, Am I a dog that you come to me with staves? The Philistine cursed David by his gods, which Miss Nancy will tell you right now are no gods. There's only one God. We know him. But anyway, getting back to the story, I get sidetracked. He said, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the fields. Then David told the giant. I can imagine David's voice not shaking a bit and him full of confidence, knowing that the Lord was on his side. David told the giant, You come to me with a sword and a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand. I will smite you and take your head from you. I will give the carcasses. Now David, not only is he brave thinking about this one big, huge 9'9" giant, he's thinking about everybody else that's with him. I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth today. He wasn't going to mess around. Then, here's the only reason I believe in my heart that David wanted to do this to start with. Then all the earth will know that there is a God in Israel. All this assembly shall know that the Lord saves not with sword or spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. It came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came to draw near to David, this is after he looked on him. I imagine he stopped and thought, is this all you got? But anyway, that's just Miss Nancy wondering about things. When the Philistine arose and came to draw near to David, David hurried. He was anxious to get it started and ran toward the army to meet the giants. David put his hand in his bag, took a stone and slang it, and it smote the Philistine in the forehead. The stone sunk into his forehead. He fell upon his face to the earth. I imagine first he rocked backwards like a big tree. And I was kind of amazed that he fell on his face. I forgot that till I was going over this story a year or so ago. But he fell on his face after being hit right there with the stone in the forehead. So David prevailed over the giant with a sling and with a stone. He smote him and slew him, but there was no sword in David's hand. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine. I can see him right now standing on Goliath's chest or on his back. I don't know which way he did it. But anyway, he drew Goliath's sword out of the sheath and slew him and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw their champion was dead, guess what they did? They didn't stand there and fight. They fled like a bunch of chickens. Anyway, that's not even part of the story. The men of Israel and Judah arose, shouted, and pursued the Philistines into a valley. The wounded fell. See, battles cost lives, and wars are so horrible, but that's what this was a war, really. The children of Israel returned after chasing them and spoiled their tents. Now, we've talked about being spoiled before. They took all the jewel, all the armor, all the knives and swords and all that stuff, I imagine. But anyway, dead bodies laying everywhere. But David, he took the head of Goliath. I imagine the head of Goliath was at least waist high to little David. And he brought it to Jerusalem. But he put his armor in his tent. So he took time. He wasn't in no hurry. He just had finished business, was on his way home. When King Saul saw, that's hard to say this, he asked Abner, the captain of his host of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? Find out. Abner brought David before the king, and Saul said, Whose son are you, young man? David answered humbly. See, this didn't build up David's head. He said, I am the son of your servant, Jesse, the Bethlehemite. David stayed humble. God was after a king. That's all I'm going to say about that. I hope you guys love this story. It's from my heart and straight from the Bible. And when I put the book out, it'll have some pretty pictures, but right now it's just on paper. And I will be putting the questions for the questions and answers in the back of it. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye, kids.